Hello, What's Forest Focus. Just a quick mini podcast for you on Nottingham Forest and their striker search as they lodge bids for both Eddie Nketiah of Arsenal and Santiago Gimenez of Feyenoord. It's been reported Forest have bid around 25 million, including add-ons for Nketiah, and 21 million for Gimenez. Looks like around 30 million to seal the deal with either one, with only one of them coming in, it seems. So we'll talk a little bit about each of them, what they might offer, and the reaction that's gone down in the fan base to the news that we've bid for both of them and who people want. When it emerged yesterday, it was kind of Gimenez first, the bid was revealed. Then it was Eddie Nketiah. Like I say, provoked quite a lot of reaction. And straight away on our Twitter account, put a poll out asking who people would rather see come in. Took this about 10 minutes before we started recording, and they've had 1,000 votes, so a pretty good sample size in terms of the data. Eddie Nketiah, 32.9% from 1,062 votes. Santiago Gimenez, 67.1%. So pretty conclusive that the Forest Twitter fan base is very much more keen on Gimenez than Eddie Nketiah. So I'll talk a bit about both of them, like I say, and I suppose it poses a question around why people voted. And I do wonder, is it people voting because they've seen a lot of Gimenez and they're really keen on him and they think he's going to be really good? Is it because he's a shiny new toy and, you look at his goals last season and the kind of excitement of a new striker we've not heard of brings? Or is it just people really voting against Nketiah and not being particularly keen on what he might offer if he does sign? So we'll have a little look at each of them. Nketiah is 25, so entering is kind of what you would hope would be his peak years once he gets past 24. Got one England cap, and his goal record last season: 5 goals, 2 assists in 27 appearances in all competitions. So it doesn't sound particularly amazing, but there's some context around it, as there always is. His XG, for those who believe in that, was 5.75. So he got 5 goals. So it means his finishing was pretty solid, put away most of the chances he should have done. Obviously missed a few, as all strikers do, and probably buried a couple that he shouldn't have done. He scored a hat-trick against Sheffield United, and one of those was from like 25 yards into the top corner. So as you can see, sometimes strikers score chances they're not going to. It's interesting, that hat-trick, it really summed up perhaps what he's all about. Different kinds of goals, sharp in the box, can really finish well. That was the peak of his season. He started 9 of Arsenal's 11 games at the start of the Premier League season. He got 4 goals in that time, 3 goals with Sheffield United, as we say. And then it was a really broken season from there. He kind of was here and there off the bench. They moved Kai Havertz to play centrally, and he did a great job. Gabriel Jesus kind of was pushed out wide, pushed down the pecking order, and that impacted Nketiah, So over the course of his career, it seems like he does a lot better at home. There's a few interesting trends. He scored 11 goals in 11 starts at the Emirates at one stage, and he's a bit of a flat track bully. This is stealing from Mark, an FPL Black Box, but top 8 versus bottom 6, his XG shoots up by 0.41, be the bottom 6. So he tends to do well against the worst teams in the league historically. That's how he's done. But generally seems to benefit from starts, as all strikers do. Just for a bit of context, last season our strikers, Chris Wood, 31 appearances, 14 Premier League goals. Only one of those was off the bench against Sheffield United, when he scored that late winner. 7 sub appearances for 67 minutes. So he obviously benefited from starts. Taiwo, first 10 games when he was fit and massively firing. That feels like a long time ago, but the way he finished the first season of the Premier League and started last season was fantastic. 4 goals, 2 assists in 10 games, 8 starts in that period. So I'm just kind of placing a premium on starts, and that's why, Nketiah, he hasn't particularly had long runs of being backed. He's had bursts, but he's never been the number one. And it'd be really interesting to see what he can do if he comes here and gets a run of games starting once he's bedded in. So like I say, good player. I think he can finish off both feet. Good movement in the box. And a couple of telling things. Arsenal have kept him for ages. So Arteta must like him. His problem is he's never been able to kind of break that ceiling of being the number one at a top club, which probably shows he's not really Arsenal's level. Not if you're going to win the league, and not if he's going to start. And that's not being disrespectful to him. You look at the quality that you need to win the title. Obviously, Haaland is top class. Liverpool have got Salah, plays out wide, but he's not quite that level. So I kind of asked myself a few questions. What kind of club would he sign for if he left Arsenal? I asked this to punt people when they come on. It's always a good barometer, I think. I noted down a few clubs: West Ham, Brighton, Palace, Fulham, Brentford. If Tony goes, I could see him fitting in well at all those clubs with the style of play he's got, or his CV, or what he might offer them. And those are clubs I'd be quite happy if Forest were in the next few years. So I don't mind that. And then the other question I suppose it kind of poses, because we're talking about Gimenez and what he could offer and how well he's done in the Dutch league. And I wonder how many goals would Eddie Nketiah score if he played in the Dutch league for Feyenoord. Gimenez got 23 goals. How many would Nketiah get? And I kind of like to think that he would get 20 plus goals as well. So I can see why Forest fans are down on his goal record, but I think there's always context around it. And when you watch what he can do, what he can't do, I actually think he'd be a good fit for us. Obviously, it's a lot of money, but he doesn't control the fee. Like last season, we paid 30 million for or 35 million for Sangare, and people were really excited about that. This is a striker, and they cost a lot of money. So, like I say, players don't control the market, and I guess that's what we'd have to pay. It is a lot, and it would be a gamble, and it feels like whoever we sign as the striker, if they're going to be number one, I think there's going to be a gamble to it. It's either going to be the price because they played in the Premier League and they haven't quite done enough in the eyes of some people, or we're buying them from a foreign market and we don't know if they'll adapt to the Premier League, or they're young and they're cheaper, and you kind of, or slightly less proven, like Ramon Sosa, who obviously plays out wide, but for a lesser fee. So it's interesting to see how we do it. Like, I mean, Fletch generated a lot of comments yesterday, but I do agree that the next signing that comes in probably has to improve the 11 if we're going to go all out for it. And I wonder about FFP and how much money we've actually got. So is this going to be the last big signing? And maybe the other two, a fullback and a goalkeeper, maybe they're on loan or something like that. So it feels there's a lot on this signing. So I can understand why people have reservations about Nketiah, certainly. Just before we talk about Gimenez, quick word for the NAV. Saturday the 31st of August, our last home game before the international break. Ridiculous, there's one after 3 games. So a couple of weeks, a week and a half away from that. It's Oasis and straight after the final whistle against Wolves at the City Ground. So head down to the NAV. They were really good last time. It's sure it'll be packed again. And hopefully we'll be celebrating a win with a few beers, and you won't have to queue for too long if you make your way down to the Trent Navigation. And thanks very much for their support as ever. Let's talk about Santiago Gimenez a little bit more. We discussed him yesterday on the show. I'll put his graphic back up. Obviously, you can see this is 23-24 for those who are listening, not watching. Put his stats on the screen with thanks as ever to WT Analysis, who does really good work on Twitter. Shows up really well in the Dutch league in terms of XG, XGI, shots and touches in the box, shots on goal, touches in the box. Really top class in the Dutch league. Had a fantastic season. 23 goals last season. He started this season well. He's got a couple of goals already, so definitely a player there. His father, incidentally, comes from a bit of a footballing family. Christian Gimenez played 550 senior games for really good clubs in and around Argentina, won 5 Mexico caps. Pretty sure he's good on one version of Football Manager. I feel like I've signed him. So, lots to like about Gimenez as well. I think I said he's 23 years old. Plays a real, talisman for Feyenoord, who did well under Arne Slot last season. They had Minter as well, who we were looking at, who ended up at Brighton from Newcastle. So looking at him, good finisher, sharp in the box, can really pick a pass, good link-up play. And this is the dreaded YouTube highlights video. So you can always get taken in by them. But it kind of remind me of, dare I say, Dominic Solanke or Ollie Watkins, that type of smart player. Good movement, comes alive in the box, can link the play, and has a lot to offer. And one good thing I like about him, in Europe last season, he's played in the Champions League and scored twice for Lazio. They went into the Europa League and he scored for Roma. So obviously a lot of talent there. I'm not going to talk too much about him because I've not seen him in person, and I think we can all get sucked in. by these YouTube videos and the stats on the screen, I think, yeah, he's definitely the one. So placing trust in the recruitment team, there must be something that they're seeing there that really makes him, one of the two that they've narrowed the search down to. So like I said, about 30 million for him. Maybe it might end up being a bit more. I don't know if he would come. And again, that's the market. You can't really, we can't really complain about it. That's what it is. If you're going to sign a striker, then you're probably going to have to pay a huge premium. Obviously, Solanke's the big mover this summer. He's gone to Spurs for 65 million. So 35 million is our kind of top level signing. Can they push us into the next bracket? So I think Gimenez looks a really good player, and I'd be happy to have him. Bit of a unknown quantity relatively compared to Nketiah, who we've seen more of in the Premier League. We probably know what he can do to an extent. I don't think we've seen the best of him. He needs that run and that backing. How close is each one to their ceiling? I kind of wonder if Gimenez has got the higher ceiling of the two. I don't know by how much. He's a bit younger. He might have a bit more resale value, obviously, if it really comes off. And one of the point on Nketiah, kind of like the Callum Hudson-Odoi example, you move out of London and it really reignites your career, or ignites your career in Nketiah's case. So Hudson-Odoi could be a shining light. Obviously, the fees are literally 10 times difference between them. But young English players probably play together for the under-21s. I should have looked that up. But I imagine, he could forge another part of that exciting attack with Gibbs-White, Elanga, Hudson-Odoi. I quite like the sound of it. I'd be happy with both of them. But don't rule out Taiwo. Don't rule out Chris Wood. I think they've got big parts to play. I'd love to see a fully fit Taiwo. I think he actually is still probably our first choice striker when he's fully fit and firing. We saw what he could do the season we stayed up first, and the start of last season. When he's on it, he's fantastic as well. So lots to like in amongst our strikers if we were to get either of these, and I'd be very happy going forwards. Hopefully people have found that relatively interesting. Whether you agree or disagree, drop your comments in. If you think Nketiah is still an absolute dud for us, then no problem at all. Let me know in the comments. Or if you think Gimenez is too much of a risk, then obviously do the same. Like I say, hit like on this video. It really makes a big difference YouTube wise in terms of the algorithm. Do subscribe as well, become a channel member, and leave a lovely iTunes review. We'll be back tomorrow. Not quite sure who with. I've got a couple of guests potentially lined up. It just depends on their availability. But we'll definitely be around tomorrow, and then match preview Thursday for Southampton, opposition preview Friday, and post-match show on Saturday. So thanks very much for your company today. Also check out the video I've done on Ramon Sosa, looking at his background with a chap called Ralph Hanna, who is from London, moved to Paraguay, then met a girl and ended up living in America. But he is an avid follower of Paraguayan football, does a podcast with a few other guys, so he's well placed to talk about Sosa. It was really interesting to hear about his strengths and his weaknesses. Slightly different profile to the strikers that we talked about in terms of a lower fee, someone who could settle in with time, less of a gamble financially. And we've got Hudson-Odoi and Elanga there already nailed for the wingers. Striker situation is a bit different. Everyone's saying we're crying out for one. So let's see if we get either of these chaps. Hopefully you enjoyed that, like I say. If we don't see you tomorrow, then we shall see you soon.